This episode has been sponsored by Dictate of Erebos.
Yeah!
Commanderin.
Yeah!
Thank you, everybody, for downloading the exciting conclusion to our interview with Jason Alt. If you haven't already heard the first part of our interview with Jason, go back to episode 4 now. Jason is an excellent guest, and we want to thank him again for coming on to the show. We hope you have at least as much fun as we did recording the episode. There were a few minutes where I could not breathe, I was laughing so hard. But without spoiling any more, let's start the episode.
They have to let you do that. That's what I tell myself.
I have a question. So I came back to Magic after 17 years of, basically trying not to play Magic. And I realized that there was this thing, this MTG Finance thing, that people were making money off of cards, and folks like you were actually making a living off of it, that there were enough, and not as a game store necessarily. So how do you look at a set that's currently in print and identify a card that you think is going to spike long-term or maybe will spike short-term? Obviously, short-term is more about standard.
Yeah.
What about cards that have kind of surprised you and maybe that you guessed accurately would be a long-term investment?
It's hard to know what standard's going to do because it's really not up to you as a speculator. It's really up to what the pros want to do. I really didn't think that the pros would want to play Dragon Lord Ojutai at all. I didn't think they... I thought it was great. But I thought that was because I was an EDH dirtle, and we like big dirtly Dargans that have good abilities like that. So it's... I mean, we were required to. We do a set review on Brainstorm Brewery. We have to talk about every card in Standard, but I really wish I didn't have to. Because as a Brainstorm Brewery co-host, you have to have an opinion about every card in the set, and as a speculator, you don't. You only have to have a good feeling about one card in a set. So I just tend to wait till I feel real strongly about something. This week, I saw Knight of Souls Betrayal was starting to get played in sideboards, and that was a card that people aren't going to target first. They're going to target the main deck cards in the Jund deck, which is why you saw Huntmaster go up and you saw Olivia go up. But no one really was going as hard after Knight of Souls Betrayal, but that's really good against the new Grixis Delver variants and the other stuff that's starting to pop up, because it neuters Twin. It makes the Deceiver Exarch a 0/3, and it makes the Pestermite a 1/0, and neither of those is particularly effective. So I've just had a strong feeling about it. I'm like, that's a card I'll target. I've been trading for them, looking for them on Puka Trade, looking for them on, on retail sites. So that I just wait till I have a strong feeling. You don't have to be right about every card. You just need to be right about one card. So
that one spiked earlier this year. Do you think it's going to spike again?
Knight of Souls Betrayal?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't really spike. It was sort of climbing based on getting noticed a lot more. That was a card that, back in the day, was very good in Standard and very good in Block because it made Hanakami a 0/0, which was, very effective. So that was just it took people remembering it. And sideboard cards don't really spike as quickly because A, they don't necessarily buy 4 copies, and B, people don't necessarily recognize it as quickly. So that was a card that was growing steadily, and then now that people are paying attention to it, I think it's going to grow a little bit faster. But speculation wise, you can there's stuff that you look at Snapcaster, you look at Abrupt Decay, you're like, Abrupt Decay is going to be worth more money in 6 months than it is now. You will absolutely make money buying Abrupt Decay, but that's not sexy to some people because they want that card to quadruple in price. They want to buy that bulk rare that hits $4. They want to, pick the next card that's, they want to be the person that gets all the Jeskai ascendancies, and then the deck hits and they're like, I'm selling these for $10. That's the sexiness of MTG Finance, but that's 5% of what I do, and people really don't want to hear that. They think I'm a degenerate gambler, and I make a lot of safe investments, including the safest investment of all, which is, hey, I want to sell this collection.
So you can get a good chunk of change out of buying collections. It's good times.
It's great.
Abrupt Decay appears to be doing the slow climb right now.
And it's going to keep going because it's Abrupt Decay. It's very, 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 very good.
We discussed in the watch list cards which a lot of EDH players have considered, this card might be banned, and you hear rumours about, did you hear Deadeye's going to get banned from the rules committee and stuff. How does that kind of rumour and chatter about cards being banned, does that affect the price of that card at all?
No.
Or not just in EDH, in all formats.
Actual bannings. You always kind of get the sense that maybe some people knew some stuff, because people claimed they had advanced knowledge on Bitter Blossom getting unbanned. And that, like, an unbanning had a really profound effect on Bitter Blossom's price, irrespective of Bitter Blossom's actual playability. Because, all the pros are saying, oh man, you unbanned Bitter Blossom and I'll show you exactly why it was banned in the first place. And they're like, alright, let's see it. And they're like, yeah.
There's 4 copies of my Fairies deck, it doesn't do that much.
Maybe some Japanese guy will make a black-white token deck and top 8 some, 236-player PTQ in Japan one time ever. But other than that, it's not going to do anything. So there's a fervor around it. People lost their mind when they unbanned Bitter Blossom, and people were like paying like $45, $50, $60, $70 for a copy.
Yeah.
So that has a huge effect. But for EDH, like, there's so few people paying attention to that. Because EDH players don't really pay attention to, for the most part, the price cycle, because EDH is not a cyclical format. There's no rotation to pay attention to.
Yeah.
There's bannings and unbannings, but for the most part, they're not. They'll pay attention to, like, EDH-specific bannings, but they won't pay attention to what, like, modern play or standard play or legacy play does to EDH cards that overlap. So occasionally they'll see it, like, why did this card go up? Well, it went up because of modern. And they're like, son of a...
Yeah,
so,
I do that.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen. It's fine. Like, you shouldn't have to pay attention to stuff that doesn't really affect you that much, but it does happen.
If a card does get banned in Commander, like Prime Time's a good example, how does that affect... how does our format, which is the best format, affect the price of a card for the rest of Magic?
Yeah.
That's not super well understood. I feel like I'm the only person writing about the EDH Finance. That's my current series behind the paywall on MTG Price. I'm writing about the financial implications of EDH as a format. It's not really well understood. I think people saw Edric go up because I got played in Legacy, and everyone went, oh, Commanders must be good, and like people bought out Gave and stuff like that, like some of the the other Commanders, and those prices didn't really stick. Like, I think if the finance community really started focusing on EDH without understanding what was going on, they could mess some prices up, temporarily. But I feel like the EDH effect is not super well understood. Like, I would say I have one of the best understandings of it out of the people that are generating MTG Finance content, and I still don't really feel like I have a grip on it to the extent that I can say anything authoritatively. So, like, and I don't understand tiny leaders at all, like the financial implications of that. Like, I think that's a bubble that's about to burst. I don't think Smother's a $7 card because of a format that I've never seen played in person. So,
you think Animar and Geist of St. Traft are going to go down? I
don't think Geist of St. Traft's destiny is tied to EDH, and I think Animar is. Animar's just not super reprintable. That's the problem. Animar is a very, very popular commander. It got a lot more fun when they printed a bunch of morph cards, because you can just dump your hand of morph cards and then start flipping them up. I don't really know what's going to bring Animar's price down. I think it could just be expensive forever because it's a very good general.
Yeah, it looked like it was coming down for a little while, and it...
Well, I think it spiked because people were paying attention to it, and then they stopped. Because the finance community has kind of a short memory when it comes to formats they don't really understand that well.
Yeah.
But I think reality caught up. I think it went down because everyone's like, let's make the price spike, and then it equilibrated lower than the spike price. Because the spike price is like, it's generated looking at the highest price on TCG Player, and that could be there's 5 copies, some Yahoo buys all 5 of them and lists his card for $20, and then it ends up at 12 because no one was bought his $20 copy, and people started to list for 18 to undercut the 12, and then some guy's like, well, I'll sell mine for 17, and then it ends up equilibrating where it should be.
Yeah.
And then I think what happened with Animar was Morph came along, and Animar got popular again. Because
okay.
So I think that could be what happened.
So you're blaming the Tarkir block, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm blaming the fact that Animar's quite good and got better for the price going back up. So, like, I think the price went down basically based on reality, and I think it went up based on reality.
So you think he was undervalued and now he's getting recognized?
I think he was undervalued, then briefly overvalued, and then I think his price is going to be just, for most EDH cards, the price is going to be just about right because it's based on actual supply and demand. There's going to be no tinkering from anybody. I think dealers understand EDH prices much better than, like, people at my level. And I think that's because dealers know what is requested. Because they don't just sell to spiky players. Even at GPs, they're going to get a lot of EDH players coming up looking for stuff. And they sell online. They know to whom they're selling online based on what they buy.
Yeah.
So if someone's buying a lot of Soul Rings on top of the card they buy, they could be an EDH guy.
Is that sort of a beast that eats itself, though? Because I know a lot of dealers at game stores will set their prices based on, like, TCG mid or TCG low or whatever. And so doesn't that just perpetuate the cycle?
Well, I mean, TCG player's manipulable. I think its price when the card is hot is a little bit more misleading than when the card is just another card that people who want an Animar deck will buy one copy of.
Right.
So I think TCG mids, it's a fine baseline. I think people should pick a standard. I think that's a fine standard to pick. It's a marketplace. It's not just one dealer. Like, if you go by Star City price, Star City can be like, you know what? I think we want all the Scalding Tarns. But with TCG player, it's a lot of different moving parts. It's a lot of individual people. And I think prices go down on TCG player much faster than they do on Star City. Because on Star City, it takes Ben Blywise saying, like, all right, it's not selling, let's lower the price. But on TCG player, it just takes a second guy with a copy. Wanting his to sell faster than the guy who's got his listed already, and putting his a few cents lower. And when I sold on TCG player a lot, I was adjusting my prices every day. If I wasn't the lowest, I would adjust so I was a few cents lower than the cheapest guy.
Huh.
So there's a race to the bottom on TCG player. I think it's a fine standard benchmark to use because there's actual competition.
So, Sean, since you were asked that question in person, do you think that answers?
Yeah.
Our
So
listener?
I had one of our listeners and a friend of mine by the name of Scoops. His question was specifically around Guys to St. Traft, and should he go in at it now, or is that price going to pop, or is it being inflated by tiny leaders?
It's the best tiny leaders general
by a long way.
But I don't think that matters because I don't really think that tiny leaders is really actually affecting prices. I think there's a lot of speculation, and I think it's a little out of touch with reality. I don't necessarily think that. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. There could be like secret enclaves of people secretly playing tiny leaders outside of my field of vision. But like, I don't. Every time I hear people like, oh man, my store has tiny leaders tournament. We had 20 people. I'm like, all right, like that's an anecdote. I don't know if that's a pattern, and it could get bigger than it is now. It could be, it could get bigger.
It could be medium-sized leaders.
Yeah, I mean that would be the logical next step in its growth.
Chubby leaders.
Chubby leaders.
Oh.
Everything has to cost four mana to 6 mana. That would be a tough format.
We should start our own format with 4 mana commanders. Yeah.
No mana rocks.
Yeah.
So yeah, Geist of St. Traft is doing it's pretty cyclical. Like the modern could come along and then everyone goes, oh man, we want to play that Geist deck in modern and play, shout out to Scotty Mac and the rest of Team Geist. Every once in a while, like there were 3 really profound spikes in the last 180 weeks in the price of Geist of St. Traft, and you can pretty much explain all of them. I think Tiny Leader's hype is going to die down, and I think Geist of St. Traft has significant downside if that does happen. So I don't think there's any reason to buy now, and actually in the last 2 months, the buy price has cut about $3.
Awesome.
Dealers actually, that's buy list. That's not retail. That's buy list. So that's actually an expression of a decrease in confidence from stores.
So that answers listener Scoops McLaren's question pretty succinctly, I think.
Does that guy rage quit a lot? Is that what you call him, Scoops?
That is exactly. That is why he gets his nickname. Yeah. He'll be angry at hearing that.
Oh, he will.
What's he going to do? Quit?
We're only
excellent.
pulling your leg, Scoops.
All right, so I got a question, and this might be a noob question, but as an EDH player who snipes out the singles, is it worth it to wait for a block to rotate out of another format? For example,
Oh, yeah.
in October, like Theros, Born of the Gods, Journey into Nyx 2015 core is out of standard. Will cards with Krufix in their name all become cheap again?
I'm writing about all 15 gods this week on MTG Price. I wrote about the 5 monocolored gods. I think there are 2 kinds of gods. There are the gods whose prices are predicated on standard, and the gods whose prices are predicated on not standard. And I think Krufix, for example, I think its price is going to fall a little bit less at rotation, but I think it's still going to fall because I think people are going to clean out their binders. That always happens.
Yeah.
People always clean out their binders. They go to that first event and they're like, just ship. I don't need a Krufix in my binder anymore. I'm just a standard player. If I can get anything for it. I'm seeing buy prices fall on all the gods. Like, I think the minimum buy price for any god, like Heliod was 75 cents buy list for like a week, and then it went back up to $1. So I think like the cheapest any dealer will ever be able to get a god for is $1. So I think at rotation, a lot of them could be $2 to $3 retail, and I actually am writing about which ones I think are good pickups at if that happens. But Krufix, I don't think its standard play matters much at all. So it's going to fall less at rotation than something like Xenagos or Thassa. But I still think there's downside when people clean their binders out. So I would definitely wait, and I would definitely buy at rotation. I'm buying very heavy into Porphyros at rotation.
I think Athreos will be a popular commander forever.
Yeah. I really like pairing Krufix with its self-same Prophet. I think that's very silly. As good a deck as Omnath is, I think being in blue is just, it's so worth how much of a better... Omnath is a better general, but like being in blue is definitely worth it, so I like
And you can
Krufix.
still have Omnath in your deck while you do it.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's weird you get to track both kinds of mana in your mana pool. I don't even know how those stack.
I think you'd have to decide which card was taking precedent to store it.
I'm not a judge. That's weird.
It is odd.
Well, no, it means all of the mana except green mana becomes colorless at end of turn, and green mana stays.
Okay, so what happens to that green mana?
You got to track your green mana separate.
What happens if that Omnath gets destroyed to that green mana? Does it stay in the pool with Krufix and become colorless, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
The phase change, yes.
Yep.
Confusing.
Yeah. So, do you think it's moral to Genesis Wave for 31?
I mean, moral? It sure is fun.
It's certainly more moral than Villainous Wealthing for 31, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be fun to wild ricochet that Genesis Wave?
Nothing feels better than casting a Genesis Wave where X equals 20 or greater.
Oh, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
As an Omnath player, I'm sure there's stuff that feels better than that. But as an Omnath player, that's the goal, right? That's the dream. I would rather whiff on a 20-point Genesis Wave than be guaranteed to stomp the life out of people with Craterhoof Behemoth. That's how much fun casting Genesis Wave is.
Yeah, it's a blast. I still haven't done a significant Genesis Wave, but I've been victimized by a 31 twice. So.
Oh, Pete in my paper group got I think it was a 49 off.
Oh,
and that was using
Does he-
Krufix as well.
Does Pete not have a cool nickname like Scoops does?
He's the Space Pope.
So he doesn't have a cool nickname. I was right.
Yeah, no, he's not as good as Scoops. To be fair to Scoops, he doesn't scoop anymore after we gave him the nickname Scoops, but we said, right, once the nickname's there, it's not going, sorry.
Oh, I thought maybe it could be like an ironic nickname, like a big fat guy named Tiny.
No.
Scoops is a guy like, no, man, I'm going to go off. And everyone's like, okay, you clearly have won. We don't want to watch you dig through your whole deck to find your one win condition. Like, we're all going to concede, let's just play the neck. No, man, nobody Scoops. And everyone's like, nobody Scoops. I hate that guy. Let's call him Scoops. You never know.
Getting the nickname has helped him because he nearly scooped the other week when I traumatized him on turn 5 and I had Lazav out and he was using a Kalia deck and I just knew there'd be an Avacyn hitting the graveyard. And he nearly scooped then, but then thought about it and didn't. So
I thought you said he did.
No,
he almost did, but you
did.
raised your eyebrow at him and gave him a stare. And
there was a general consensus
about
in the
his
group
nickname.
of, man, it's turn 5. You've been traumatized, for God's sake. Yeah, he accepted it. I got the Avacyn anyway, so
So all was good.
I got
right?
my hexproof Avacyn. Fun times.
So, Jason, we have another little segment that we will typically hit maybe every other episode, it feels like. And so this question relates to that episode, that segment, rather. We're not going to go into that segment. But if Sean had to beg for one EDH-relevant card that hasn't spiked in price yet, which should he select?
Please, sir, can I have some more?
And the segment is called Sean Begs for Stuff.
Sean begs for stuff. Dictate of Erebos.
Yeah.
Dictate of Erebos is a functional reprint of a card that's been printed 5 times and is still above $10.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bulk rare. I'm sorry.
I know this is the begs, but it's for other people at home to go, oh, we should be buying into these. I actually bought 10 Dictate of Ereboses when it was 50p. Mm-hmm. It's like 75 cents. It's so good.
Yeah, Jason, so I also bought 10 Dictates of Erebos. Jason, how many did you buy? It hurts to laugh.
10 times 10 to a certain power.
This episode has been sponsored by Dictate of Erebos.
I don't have as many Dictates of Erebos as I do Seances, but I got to the point where I could not buy any more without people noticing and the price moving. Let's say that I bought enough that I didn't affect the price yet.
I'll tell you what, Jason, I will swap 9 of my Dictate of Ereboses with you for 1 Tundra. Deal?
Sounds good. Are they Japanese foil? I might do that. I might do 9 Japanese foil Dictates for a Tundra.
Sadly, they're not Japanese foil.
Just because I know how tough it would be to put that together.
They're English, not American. English. I can promise you that.
Was it Dictate of Erebos with a U for no reason?
Yes.
Screw you, booty. They've been foiled with
Erebos.
aluminum.
Hey, just because the chemist who first discovered aluminum called it aluminum and then decided that wasn't good, so he called it aluminum. Just because the guy who named it called it aluminum.
He called it...
Doesn't mean anything to you, does it?
He called it aluminium, not aluminum. I don't know what that is. You're pulling that one out of your ass, but... We will teach you how to spell.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
What would a chemist know about such things, eh?
That's true.
Just why I'm here, it's pronounced oregano. Oregano. Bloody. And oregano is a herb. Sorry.
Oh, Lord.
We could argue this point for hours and hours.
I broke my chair. I was laughing so hard. Sorry.
First Blood.
What was the last Commander in the last Commander game you played?
In the last EDH game you played.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what was
I
the
don't
last
use
Commander?
the C word. I play Varel a lot. It's not good. I'll tell you what I'm building. I'm building Duretti, and I'm building... oh, man, I can't think... I almost said Siege Gang Commander. It's not Siege Gang Commander. It's the red...
Shattergang?
Shattergang! I'm so bad with card names. I'm building Shattergang and Duretti right now, so those are the two next decks I'm building. And it's funny, Sheldon Menery said that he really likes Jund-colored decks, and I'm like, why? Why do you like Jund? And then I realized that I have Olivia, I have Shattergang Brothers, and I have Prosh. So it's approaching the number of blue-green decks I have, which is pretty crazy. Does
that mean you like Jund, or that you hate humans?
Oh, I just hate... you know what? I think I like decks that showcase Dictate of Erebos. It's just so much fun to have a Shattergang Brothers out and sacrifice an enchantment creature to blow up an enchantment, but still get your Dictate of Erebos trigger, or blow up a mana rock from everybody by sacrificing a Solemn Simulacrum, but still getting the Grave Pack trigger. I like that concept a lot. So that's why I do that kind of stuff in Prosh, but I'm like, I should just be, because Shattergang's in the 100. I'm like, this should just be my commander at this point. So that was, it seemed a little redundant to basically be doing the same almost thing with two different decks. So I'll have to definitely distinguish Shattergang from Prosh, but I think I like doing Jund colored stuff sometimes. Absolutely.
Yeah, Yeah, we just did a deck tech with a listener, an old friend at GP Vegas, and he runs Crush. I had no experience with Crush prior to that, and he actually never cast it in the game, but he looks fierce. I've never gotten the gumption up to build a Prosh deck either. I feel like Prosh is one when you show up with Prosh and you drop him.
Yeah, people kind of go, oh man, and that, Food Chain is Food Chain's a heck of a card.
Yes, it is.
So, like, my Prosh deck, I don't know. It's very close to the Precon because I basically just took out the worst cards, but I still have, like, the 1/2 green guy from Portal 3 Kingdoms that I've never summoned, and, like, a bunch of other terrible cards from the Precon because I just never took them out. But I jammed in a Food Chain and a Burn at the Stake and stuff like that, so the deck's really weird. It might be 75% just by virtue of not having the deck run smoothly, but you get a Food Chain going with any sack outlet and something like, I don't know, Blood Artist, and you can just go off, and it's really upsetting to people. That's why I like Perforos so much. Perforos just does work in every deck. He's nutty, and in Prosh with Food Chain, it's you just kill people if you have Perforos.
Yeah, living the dream with I've lived it once with Marath. I had Perforos, Mana Echoes, and Cathar's Crusade.
Ooh, that's dirty.
Mana Echoes is a hell of a card.
It's a great card.
Yeah, it's been used against me by Nate and Nick Jaragoski a few times, and it makes me want to scream every time it drops.
Hey, listener Josh, who is at S1Argoth, S1RGOTH, he says, I'm sure following the market is the best way to buy while prices are low. Are precons worth purchasing online?
They used to be. They're not anymore. It was sort of like when we saw the precon prices spike from the first round, and we're sort of like, wow, this could be a real thing. It was sort of like the Beanie Baby fallacy almost. Like everybody saw old baseball cards were worth a ton of money because, they all got thrown away and they were, scarce. So everyone's like, oh man, collectibles will be good forever. So when people saw the new round of precons, they're like, yeah, these will probably be great. And they overprinted them, like, to such a huge extent. So, like, I kind of thought that the Power Hungry deck with Prosh in it might be, like, a good long-term investment. Because, I thought it might, like, at least double. Because we saw, like, Heavenly Inferno, the Kalia deck, something like $150 sealed on eBay right now.
Yeah,
but I think that's because
insane.
they just didn't make a ton of them. They made a ton of the second wave decks, and a ton of them were just garbage because stores are like, do I really have to order a bunch of precons I don't want just to get one more Mind Seize so someone can get the, the fourth True Name Nemesis they need for their Legacy deck? That doesn't seem fair. So I think they are getting so overprinted, they're probably sealed, not very good investments. But I think every deck has 2 or 3 cards out of the 15 new cards that are just that are going to get there long term.
Yeah.
So while I don't necessarily think you want to buy Power Hungry and keep it sealed, I think you definitely want to be trading for Primal Vigor, stuff like that.
So you think Primal Vigor will take off?
Well, I think it's an attenuated version of a very good card.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think it needs to be $3 when the twice printed doubling season is that much more. And Primal Vigor has it's maybe 25% as good as doubling season, but like it still does work. And the fact that it benefits your opponents to an extent isn't going to matter if you're built around abusing it and they're not.
Would you, in using 75% philosophy, would you swap a doubling season for a Primal Vigor?
Well, I think that's a good way to make the deck affordable. Also, like,
yeah.
I'm definitely in favor of building more decks. So 75%, you resist the urge to tune the deck to death. And you get to the point when you're tuning the deck, it's like, all right, my Riku deck, the only way you can get better is I add one more Time Warp. And that Time Warp happens to be, the $200 Journey into Jingzhou or whatever from Portal 3 Kingdoms.
I have one of
so
them.
I guess I gotta, yeah. So like if that's the only way to make your deck better, spend that $200 and build a new deck.
I got given a binder of cards that had that one from 3 Kingdoms. It also had a Temporal Manipulation from Portal 1 in it as well. I was like, sweet.
Temporal Manipulation was Portal 2, I think, right?
2? I stand corrected, sir.
Portal was the circular one, and then like the Pentagon-shaped one was Portal 2.
Yes.
It was probably in both, and someone is in their car yelling at their radio. Whatever. Let them feel good that I was wrong and they were right. But I'm pretty sure Temporal Manipulation was the second Portal.
I'm always wrong about something in every episode.
It's right here, Portal Second Age.
That's embarrassing. I corrected you on your own podcast.
Oh, God.
I
That's
feel
He's
rude.
quitting after this.
I'm a bad
It's not
guest.
difficult.
I'm going to go commit seppuku, but I'm going to do it in the English way, so I'm just going to sit in a room on my own and feel self-hatred for years and then die lonely.
Isn't English seppuku just drinking brandy every night until you eventually just die?
Yeah, or port or rum or really warm, disgusting, nut-flavoured lager.
Or a single piece of your meat called bacon.
Oh, it's delicious. You're such a heathen. Bacon should be chewy and fat and
What?
smothered in tomato sauce.
Yes. It's the best
What?
it's the best source of gristle pudding.
Please, sir.
You like your bacon marinara?
Oh, yeah. Hey, good news, everybody. Temporal manipulation, currently $80.99 plus $1.99 shipping.
It's a great
on
card.
TCG
And it's
Player.
just a
That's good news to people that already had them.
Yeah, it's good news to me. I have one. It's just a reprint of Time Warp, so 5 mana for an extra turn.
Exactly. So if you're at the point where you're like, okay, I want to pay $5 for my first time warp, and $90 for my second time warp, and $300 for my third time warp, maybe just cool it. Maybe just build a different deck. So that's why, like, yeah, I don't tune the decks too much if they're 75%, because, like, if a better card comes along, sure, I'll jam it in there, but I'm not going to try to make it optimal.
I think the CMC in EDH between 5 and 6 is negligible as well. So go for a Walk the Aeons or, something else.
Yeah, why not?
Temporal Manipulation, currently in print, super cheap. It's essentially 3 mana if the game's late enough.
Just play Narset and it won't matter.
Yeah, true.
Wah, wah.
That's discouraged around these parts.
Yeah, that's frowned upon in most metas, I think.
I don't think there's a... Yeah, and Narset is kind of a victim of the Rafiq problem, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Same as Sagada. I think we should do an episode on those guys one time.
The moment you see a Narset, you know you have to take that player out before
It's
turn
75%
6.
Narset. Yeah, you're dead, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, go tell that to the Rafiq player.
Yeah.
I'll look through your deck after the three of us murder you.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll
it was
evaluate that.
75%, guys. Look at that.
I had a
He wasn't a witch.
I had a
he floated.
dedicated
Yeah.
anti-Narset deck. I guess it was an anti-Rafiq deck as well, but I had an absolute 100% dedicated anti those guys deck. For someone in our group kept playing with Rafiq and Narset.
And you designed to your meta.
I designed to my meta. It was a mono black Draught Callistrium Bloodchief deck, and it just kept him off the table. You can keep sacrificing that horrible lady.
For the record, that's Drana with a U.
No, it's Drahna.
Drowna.
Drahna. Any more listener questions?
We have one from a Bert Cotrain. Do you want to read that one, Sean?
So, Bert Cotrain says, why are you laughing, Phil? This is a
No,
genuine listener.
Yes.
Don't laugh at his
Yes.
question. He's very sensitive. He says, do you think Brainstorm Brewery would benefit from having a handsome Englishman on the show as one of the hosts? I know I feel safe and protected when I listen to the Commanderin's pet Brit.
Well, handsome doesn't come through on radio.
If anyone can find a handsome Englishman, let me know.
Nice.
Well, you would find one at a soccer game, wouldn't you?
Hey, the Americans didn't invent the word soccer. The English did.
That's true.
They just stopped using it to make us look crazy. That's what the English do. It was like, oh, we got this system of measurement. It's non-metric. It's based on how long a king's foot was. And the Americans are like, all right, we'll use that. And they're like, we're not using it anymore. You guys look ridiculous. Same thing with the word soccer. You pranked us, and we fell for it.
Yeah, that was a shortened, an abbreviation of association football is where soccer came from. And we gave it to you. But we still insist on calling the American football gridiron. Which
Wow, that's a much better name.
it sounds so much more Chuck Norris-y than... and we know Chuck Norris is the American...
Yeah, we got you. Chuck Norris is like the metric system. That was a joke we played on you. We're like, hey, Chuck Norris is cool, right? And the English are like, yeah, Chuck Norris. And we're like, just kidding. That guy's a crazy neocon. He doesn't think gay couples should be able to adopt. And you're like, no, we like him now.
Look,
You look
we get
ridiculous.
We get a lot of late night reruns of Walker, Texas Ranger, and I imagine that's how all of you live your lives.
If you stare at a bear for long enough, it won't attack. That's a real thing that happened in I wish I were making that up. I'm not a good enough comedian to ever come up with, what if he stared at a bear for a while and then some Native American music played and the bear walked away?
So let me get this right. You guys gave us Chuck Norris
As a
but gave
joke.
but gave the Germans David Hasselhoff. I think we got off better in that deal.
Well, I think we gave the Germans David Hasselhoff kind of the way you gave us Piers Morgan, and the Canadians gave us Justin Bieber.
Ugh. And
they're like, hey, how would you like this person as a trial period? And they're like, we'll try him out. And we're like, he's yours now.
Canada's crimes against music are too numerous to mention here. Celine Dion.
Well, we gave back Celine Dion.
Bryan Adams.
They gave us Rush. So I can forgive Bryan Adams.
True.
William Shatner?
That reminds me of Judson. Have you built and played any theme decks as part of your 75% card sales attempt?
My cynical attempt to manipulate the market and indoctrinate people with the spirit of EDH. No, theme decks? I don't know. I feel like it's lazy because early on I was like, man, you can make a deck 75% just by shrinking the card pool by making the deck either Voltron or Tribal. And I was doing that a lot. I was like, oh, you know how you make Narset fair? Make it Narset Tribal or Narset Voltron. So yeah, I've had some theme decks, and like Tribal's cool, and it's a good way to restrict the size of the card pool, but like it felt lazy. I definitely don't have any 75% like, this is Monty Python, The Quest for the Holy Grail deck with Prodigal Sorcerer and, I don't know, some sort of catapult that shoots cows. I don't really know.
You'd need some knights, wouldn't you?
Probably some knights.
Vizardrix, that's a big rabbit, isn't it?
He's got big shark teeth. Look at the bones.
Well, Judson does some really odd things with his theme decks. The thing that's the least odd and is actually playable is one that he did for the Rush 2112 album, and he built it for Sheldon.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that list.
Yeah, well, Sheldon put it in his article. I forget the name of the article. I'll link to it, though, in the show notes. Judson also, he's built a deck where every card has scale birds in it in the art. For our listeners who don't know what scale birds are, it's if you need to establish how big something is, you put a familiar reference such as seagulls into the picture, into the artwork. So every one of the cards has scale birds. He also built one using Ural the Mistwalker, where every card in it has the back of a creature or human
looking away,
visible. So like lots of things where a monster's coming at it and burning these humans alive, and of course Ural himself has a back facing the viewpoint. And so I'm wondering if you've ever done anything goofy like that, not just the tribal and not just, Narset tribal, as it were.
Not for EDH. There was a thing that started on the east side of Michigan, and I don't know how far it spread. There was something called a harem deck where you had to you could only have one card that had a male in the art, and every other card had to depict a female.
Okay.
All right.
And that was the deck building restriction. So like it was called harem. That was a weird variant. But that was fun to build for, because you're like, oh well, I need this brainstorm because that brainstorm's got a dude. I need this one. So like the different art, actually, the prices started to diverge locally based on whether it had a male or female in the art. Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Well, if enough people adopt something, that's why Tiny Leader's like scared so many finance people, because if enough people adopt stuff, it affects prices. Just because anything that has an influence on demand, with supply being flat, is going to drive the price up.
Right.
Can I make a quick admission? Something they got mentioned twice very recently. I have never ever listened to even a single Rush song.
Why?
I don't know. I saw a very brief clip of people, old men, playing some music on stage with what looked like tumble dryers, with giant industrial fans blowing T-shirts out of them into the crowd, and I just went...
Yeah, that was the R30 tour, I think. Wow, that was 10 years ago. Now I feel old.
And I just said, yeah, I'm out.
No, they had vending machines on stage one tour. It was they had a dryers going in the background, and they were full of T-shirts. And at the end of the concert, they threw them out in the crowd. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Because they hook into the house PA, so a lot of bands have big fake speaker banks. That's just basically a facade that looks like a giant bank of speakers. And Rush is sort of like, well, if we're going to be hooked in the house PA, we might as well use that space on stage by having something goofy. So, yeah, it was vending machines one year, dryers another.
If I'm going to buy and listen to one single Rush album, which one do I get?
Which we hope that a listener sends to Sean for free. Thereby begging.
Probably a
Please say,
compilation.
I need more prog rock.
Yeah, probably a compilation. Exit Stage Left was a live album that had some of the better versions of some of their songs. That would be a good choice. And they had a double album called Greatest Hits, probably. That was what solidified it for me. Because they got back together in like 98 or 99, I want to say. And, or maybe it was like 2000. They took a few years off, and they did a tour for Vapor Trails, and like, oh, that was like 2001 when Vapor Trails came out. Yeah, so when they got back together, they toured, and I was like, you know what? I'd like to go see them, but I hadn't heard anything beyond what was played on the radio, which is only like 6 or 7 songs. So I went and bought the double disc Greatest Hits, and like that solidified it for me. Plus seeing that concert where they played for like 3.5 hours with no opener. So, yeah, either Exit Stage Left or Greatest Hits would be a good way to go.
I've seen Pearl Jam play for 3 hours with no real break. It was good.
Nate and I have seen Parliament Funkadelic.
Oh, yeah.
Pearl Jam played for 4 hours without Eddie Vedder saying a single consonant. I like Pearl Jam, but I also like to make fun of them.
I have a massive Pearl Jam tattoo at the back of my leg. I'm that much of a fanboy for that band.
What kind of Pearl Jam tattoo? Like,
it's a
what
big.
does it depict?
It's a big alive, not alive. Sorry, alive single cover stickman jumping up the back of my leg.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I thought you said it was the full lyric sheet for Daughter.
Don't call him that.
It's a picture of Eddie Vedder naked, smiling.
I hate Ticketmaster.
Looking over his shoulder at you.
So he could be in Judson's deck, showing his back off.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I make a quick, very quick message? Right.
Another one?
As long as we're way off topic, so we don't even remember what the topic was.
My childhood friend, who is directly responsible for me getting into Magic, is a guy called Rob Ackroyd, who is now the guitarist in the band Florence and the Machine. And their new album came out last week, and it's excellent. Go out and buy it. There you go. That's it.
This episode sponsored by whatever band he just mentioned.
Does he play EDH?
I think
no, he
he's
plays
busy
guitar.
being in
Weren't you listening?
a giant band now.
Yeah, that's true. That's every guitar player I know does not play Magic.
Hey.
I was waiting for that.
That's true. That's right, Nate. I forgot you're in a band too.
He doesn't consider you a guitar player. That's harsh.
Damn.
I have heard what you do.
Nate composed our theme song, and he's recently been riffing on a bunch of song parodies that kind of represent each of the color primary 5 colors at least.
Yeah, we'll have a series on that someday.
Yeah. So Jason, when you finally listened to 30 seconds of our podcast before deleting it from your hard drive and probably smashing and burning your phone, the first 30 seconds will be the theme song that Nate has written.
Cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Now we can keep. I'm having a blast, and most of the time I'm just sitting back and listening to you and Sean and Nate joke around. But you're also a stand-up comic.
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah, like aspiring. Like, I don't know, if you mostly do open mics and like aren't featuring at actual comedy clubs, it's like there's like pressure within the community not to call yourself a stand-up comic. So I'm an aspiring stand-up comic.
You are practicing.
Yeah,
You go up on stage. You have the guts to do that.
Yeah, I've been up on stage 95 times this year.
Wow.
So I was try to do 100 in the year 2015, and then it just sort of got really easy to get booked. Because for whatever reason, if you're willing to drive to a show and then perform for free, and then you thank the person that let you perform for free, if you're willing to do that, then, people will let you. You get opportunities to do that. So that sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not, because, like, it's my favorite thing. So, yeah.
If you're not allowed to call yourself a stand-up comic, are you allowed to call yourself an erected raconteur?
What?
Yeah, if I didn't want to do a 96 show, sure.
Where do you do your gigs? Is it like colleges? Is it local Magic tournaments?
A lot of bars. Bars have figured out that if someone says, hey, we want to do a comedy show, that means they're probably going to get anywhere between 20 and 100 people watching the show, buying alcohol, and then they're going to get like anywhere between 8 and 15 comedians buying alcohol, and they will spend more money than the 100 audience members. So it's a really good gig for the bar. So, like, in my town, there's actually 4 nights a week that I can get up without having to leave my own town. So I'm willing to drive a couple hours too, because my job is MTG Finance and I set my own hours.
Yay.
So I'm able to drive for gigs. So that gives me an even wider range. I've been out of the state a little bit. Since I'm in Michigan. I'm looking at stuff in Canada also. That'll be the second half of 2015. I start targeting shows like that. But it's a lot of fun. It's like I said, it's my favorite thing.
So as Magic tournaments, like the big GPs and so forth, become more like conventions, and we saw GP Las Vegas, and we've seen it before, where Christine Sprankle, she's doing cosplay, and now a lot of people are doing cosplay. Have you ever thought of offering to Channel Fireball or working something out with Channel Fireball to kind of maybe do a show at the tournament?
Well, there are quite a few Magic people that do it. Ruben Bresler and I were looking into trying to get a room in Vegas during the GP, maybe like Friday night or Thursday night. But it was just so tough to put together, and I don't live out in Vegas, so it was really hard for me to do anything. But Vegas actually doesn't have as much of a scene as I thought it did. Like, I was looking at the page where they list all the open mics I could, contact people and try to get on the week I was out there, and there was like nothing on a Friday. There was like one on a Thursday. It was really weird. I really expected Vegas to have a much bigger scene. But like in Vegas, if people want to go see comedy, they're not going to want to go see some amateur. They'll just go see that ventriloquist, or they'll go see Penn and Jillette or something like that. Penn and Jillette, is that what I just said?
Yeah, it is. It's actually what you said.
Penn and Teller.
I presume by ventriloquist you mean Jeff Dunham?
No, the poorer man's Jeff Dunham, Terry Fader.
Oh, I was about to say, if you want to go and see Jeff Dunham, you're not a friend of mine. His comedy.
If you like Jeff Dunham, you might be a racist. I'm sorry that. I don't know how many people I just alienated out of your list. Well, never listened to Commanderin again. Ugh. Sorry, guys.
Don't forget homophobe in that list. If you like
Does he
Jeff
have a gay
Dunham,
puppet? I never sat all the way through a whole special. Guys, I'm not racist. Ahmed, the abortion clinic bombing terrorist puppet, said that, not me.
He has an old man puppet that's incredibly homophobic.
But it's not him. It's the old man puppet that's saying it. So
yep.
Yeah, sure.
That's such a good workaround. I wish I'd thought of that. I should just get a puppet to talk back to my wife. Wasn't me, it was a puppet. Don't talk to her like that. Shut up, you can't tell me what to do, dummy. Oh, that would be fun.
I'm buying 10,000 dictates of Erebos this week. You can't tell me not to.
Or on your attack step, before you declare your attack, put the puppet on and say, I'm going to attack you.
No, don't attack him. You attacked him last turn. I don't care. Oh, man. Please don't get me on the swing back. It's the puppet, not me. If it were up to me, I wouldn't attack you. I wanted to leave you alone.
Then the next round, wait, I put on a different puppet. It's not the same puppet.
It's a different puppet.
Yeah, it's a totally different puppet this time.
Phil, you should put that Dak Faden stinger I recorded in, because it wasn't me, it was a puppet.
It was a puppet of Dak
I even
Faden.
made a different voice and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's great. So, Jason, we've had a blast with you.
It's been a pleasure, dear boy. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Woo.
We could really keep going, but I think our listeners are gonna. I think it's been about 2 hours now, so maybe even longer. Gosh, I don't even know.
Yep.
So how can people reach you? We're gonna put all of this contact information in the show notes, but tell people how they can reach you for magic-related topics or to book you for stand-up comedy.
I'm pretty findable, I'd say. Twitter is where I'm most active, I'd say. I'm at Jason E. Alt on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'll add people on Facebook. You can send emails to altjason17@gmail. You can find me in the MTG Price Pro Trader forums and read my articles on MTG Price. You can read my articles on gatheringmagic.com and do what some people have done and message Gathering Magic to get a hold of me. You can write me in the comments section of my articles there. Yeah, I mean, I'm around. I do stuff. I'm places. I'm on Reddit, but like, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, so all these Redditors now have your email address. Aren't you worried?
Yeah, they're illiterate though, so it's fine.
Oh, God.
I'm a Redditor too. Like that's the funniest part. Is like, how do you even know Reddit's bad? Oh, I'm there daily. I read Reddit on my phone constantly. I mean, they're bad people, but I'm one of them. So we are bad people.
fellow scumbags, leave me
No,
alone.
you know what I will say? I was surprised that my favorite community of people on Reddit is the EDH subreddit. I didn't expect that. I kind of thought the people in EDH would be dirtles and the people in competitive EDH would be like, my people, because that was a spike for so many years. But I kind of found the opposite. Like, the people in competitive EDH are not real receptive to 75% because they feel like I'm telling them telling them to ease up on people, even though I have some non-75% decks. And the people in the EDH subreddit are actually super cool, so I'm not even going to lump them in with regular Redditors because there's a real low garbage quotient in the EDH subreddit.
Jason, are people aware that if you tell them that they have to do something, they don't have to do it?
I mean, I'm aware of that. And I kind of thought if I said, hey, here's an alternative, you don't have to do this. I don't know if the people wouldn't get mad. They'd be like, well, that's not for me. But, I can kind of see where they're coming from because, not everybody wants to play EDH the way I want to play EDH. I just hope people don't think 75% means dirtle because I think Insurrection is the best 75% EDH card ever made. Because games should be fun, they should be fair, and they should end. They should end abruptly sometimes.
And so you think that's better than bribery then, huh?
I mean, Bribery may be like the mascot for 75%, but Insurrection is sort of like, I don't know. Bribery's the starting pitcher and Insurrection's the guy in the bullpen. He's Charlie Sheen in Major League just waiting to come out and end things.
Plus you can always have the puppet say, stop hitting yourself!
Guys, the puppet cast Insurrection, it wasn't me!
And remember, if Insurrection costs too much, you can just use Mob Rule instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like functional reprints.
This has been excellent. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, no problem. This was my pleasure. I love coming on new podcasts.
We'd love to have you back sometime if you're willing to put up with 2 more hours of nonsense.
I'm on 2 podcasts during the week. Like this is hours 5 and 6 of nonsense. So I'm perfectly happy with it.
Yeah, see, we can keep going, right?
Oh yeah, when you asked for contact info, I forgot to mention I'm one of the co-hosts of Brainstorm Brewery, which is on brainstormbrewery.com and is also on the MTG Price Pro Trader forums a day early. And I'm the main host of the Money Draft podcast, which sometimes is sort of related to Magic the Gathering. We call it a lifestyle podcast, but it's definitely for fans of Magic the Gathering. And Money Draft's on Brainstorm Brewery and MTG Cast. Oh, support MTG Cast, podcast listeners. MTG Cast is it's really, really good for this community. I was a writer on Quiet Speculation basically when I started my career. I still think Quiet Speculations is probably the biggest MTG Finance site still. MTG Price is getting up there. And Quiet Speculation has very kindly taken over the financial burden of keeping MTG Cast running.
Oh, cool.
So, any small donation you make if you listen to a lot of podcasts, to keep that site going would be great. And just if you could contribute that traffic also. MTG Cast it's a great place, and it's a great place to find new podcasts that you haven't necessarily heard of. And give some new podcasts a try on MTG Cast. That's my plug.
Yeah, we're actually going to be available on MTG Cast in, I will say, the cryptic near future. So that's our show. Jason, thanks for coming on. To our listeners, thank you for downloading and listening to the podcast. We'd love to hear from you and hope you'll take the time to contact us. And of course, we have to, this is where Phil begs for stuff, but especially give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, because that helps us bring you neat prizes and more wonderful content, like having Jason on the show again.
I was not cheap.
The things I had to do.
Yeah, Sean is a changed man.
Had to rethink some basic life principles.
Change for the better.
So our website, in case you're coming to us from the aforementioned MTG Cast, our website is CommanderinMTG.com. Our email is cast@CommanderinMTG.com. And on Facebook, we're CommanderinMTG. And on Twitter, take a guess, we are @CommanderinMTG. Individually on Twitter, I'm @KetJack.
I am at Copain26.
And I'm @Mr. Plorg.
And of course, Jason is @JasonEAlt. And our theme song was created for the podcast by Mr. Nate Burgess. Our logo, our logo was created for the podcast by Mr. Picto, with assistance from Kelly DeLuca, who shares a name with one of the hosts, it turns out.
Weird.
You can find more art from Mr. Picto by going to mrpicto.co.uk. And special thanks to the tech whizzes I mentioned before, Jessie, Thomson, and Graham Frank, and to Justin Bunnell for his server space. And that is our show. I think we can probably cue the music right now. Jason, if you would cue the music, we'd be much obliged.
Music time now.
That'll do it.
Yeah!
Commanderin.
Yeah!
Bottle, bow, 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 bow.